experiences of my failures and where I'm headed to next. So, Acre Biofuels started off as a nonprofit 501c3 organization. We were all about promoting local sustainable biofuel infrastructure in the area, not just limited to biodiesel. But it turned out from this 501c3 we formed two LLCs. One was a distribution company, CFEDC Services, which was successful in distributing ASTM grade biodiesel fuel throughout the area. We sold several thousands of gallons over the course of 4 years. We also had a little 2,000-gallon tanker truck you may have seen driving around town, a little orange tanker truck. And then I was also part of another LLC that never really got any steel in the ground, but we were hoping to do a 5 million gallon production plant up in Duckweed County at one point. Then the bottom fell out, wheat prices went crazy, and we got out of biodiesel. But tonight I want to focus on one potential solution. And this biofuel problem that we're trying to solve is it's not going to come from one feedstock, it's going to come from a lot of different things. And this is just one of the many bullets we're going to use to solve this problem. But I like duckweed because it applies here to North Carolina. We'll get into this. So with biodiesel, in that whole exercise, I learned a lot of different things. One, you're not going to make a lot of money making the fuel. You're going to make a lot of money in the byproducts. It's all about what you do with your waste streams. These waste streams shouldn't even be considered waste streams, they're surpluses. When you make biodiesel, one of your major byproducts is glycerin. And here locally there is a major chemical tolling company that was expecting this big surplus of glycerin from biodiesel production, and so they actually built a facility that can take really crude glycerin and turn it into USP grade glycerin, which is pharmaceutical grade glycerin, and that glycerin is worth way more than the fuel. Mm-hmm. So that was one big thing I went to. When you're making a fuel from a virgin oilseed crop as well, you also have to have something to do with your grains left over, your expelled seed husks and whatever. You sell it as animal feed. That's where the big money is, selling your byproducts as animal feed, selling it as other things. So the margins on what we were looking at in our particular business model, they showed us that the fuel sales side wasn't what's going to keep you in the black. It's all the byproducts and turning those things into value-added products. Another thing I realized too, you're definitely going to see some major biofuel production. You know, some of the bigger outfits out in the Midwest are 100 million gallon plants. But I started looking towards really small scale designs, and I'll talk more about that here in a minute. Oh, one other thing too. A lot of business plans for biodiesel in North Carolina were relying on this dollar tax credit. Every gallon that you would sell, you get $1 back from the government. This tax credit was rescinded at the beginning of this year, and half of the biodiesel producers in the state went out of business overnight. And it took 3 or 4 months later for the state government to realize, oh, that was a bad call. So they reinstated it, but it was too late for many companies. So why ethanol now? Biodiesel is great. I love biodiesel. The diesel engine is more efficient than the gasoline combustion engine. So I really like the diesel engine. But why did I switch to this interest in ethanol? Well, you need ethanol to make biodiesel. Biodiesel, when you make biodiesel, its main ingredients are 9% oil from animal fat or virgin oil, feedstock or used vegetable oil, tallow, and then 10% of your main ingredients is ethanol or methanol. And that's the stoichiometric percentage. You really need greater amounts of ethanol and methanol to drive your reaction to completion. But and then you also need a catalyst. But it turns out when you're looking at making biodiesel, this the recipe part, which includes the ethanol, that ethanol is a very big cost. And it turns out that if you're getting a very cheap oil feedstock, you're spending more of your money actually on a smaller percentage of ethanol. So I started looking at, well, if I want to make biodiesel, I better make ethanol first. Another thing that we found is a problem with a little co-op here selling biodiesel. No one drives a diesel vehicle, and there's a lot more interest to be environmental stewards to the general public, which mostly drives gasoline-powered cars. So I thought there would be a greater appeal to the public if we had a product that the public could use. Very few people drive diesels very few diesel drivers are also green, and very few green drivers will pay a premium for their fuel. So we're talking a very small market there. When you go to ethanol, the market is expanded, so that's another reason I really liked it. And then another big thing I love about ethanol, you don't need big changes to your infrastructure, for your distribution, and your transportation. There's a big mandate in North Carolina. We're trying to get 10% of our liquid fuels, petroleum fuels, displaced by 2017. And ethanol is going to be a major player in that. So now that I'm interested in this ethanol, how do I find a solution using ethanol? I found this term permaculture. Has anyone heard of the term permaculture before? I'm sure there's a few of you out there. This is basically an approach to a problem. It's a tool set where you look towards a problem, and instead of trying to fix the problem or fix the symptoms of the problem, you want to fix the whole system by integrating different production systems, closing your nutrient cycles, and making sure each component in your system serves many functions. I know that probably doesn't make a whole lot of sense right now, so let me show you a picture first.